All right, Coach Caraboa, I got it. Defense coordinator, University of North Alabama. Coach, I'm blessed to have you here today.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be able to, talk with you and talk over UNA football and everything going on right now. Thank you for having me.
The worst part's over is getting your last name right? And then that 15 seconds, I'm practicing it to myself because the last 2 or 3 episodes I've gotten them wrong, and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, you're good. You won't be the last one to get it wrong. So,
yeah, like I told you, my last name's Kaczewski. Oh my God, the amount of teachers that got it wrong when I went to college, they would say something. The worst part is my name is not with a V, it's a PH, so it's Steven with a PH. You can only imagine them going like Stefan or whatever, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
That's why it's Steve. I'm just like, Coach Steve, leave it alone. Don't worry.
I get labeled Coach Brock, Coach C, and hey, Coach C, and very rarely is it Coach Caraboa, and I'm good with it. So whatever's the easiest.
Yeah, I'm like, as long as Coach is in front of it, I'll turn my head. It doesn't matter. Does not matter. But again, I'm blessed because you said like you guys are done. You could have gone home, but you're going to talk to a no dumb country boy in Illinois here. But,
no, I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
So let's talk about you. You end up at University of North Alabama. Let's talk about how you got there. Like, was coaching your first career choice? What other stops have you made along the way, and how do we end up here?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed the process of coaching. I remember in high school, getting with my high school head coach at times where I was just so enamored. I was so interested in what they did as coaches. I knew right away, as a young age, really from a little bit even before high school, that I wanted to be a football coach or a coach in general. And came from my dad. My dad coached me when I was growing up. So he instilled in me the values that I still have today. But went to Plainfield High School, and that's just on the west side of Indiana. My head coach was Coach Brian Woodard my senior year, and learned so much from him. Really how to develop relationships with players, and went and played at Marian University, which is a startup NAIA school. When I first went there as a startup football NAIA in 2007, was under Coach Ted Karras and Coach Marty Mathis, were both the defensive coordinator and the head coach. So from there, 2007, 2010, I played, and then got somewhat of a little shot in the AFL with the Cleveland Gladiators. And then I remember it was a short cup of coffee. And I just remember when I was there, I was like, man, I just think I really want to get into coaching. And I was lucky enough for Coach Mathis, my defense coordinator at the time at Marian, asked me to come be a GA for him. So I started as a GA at Marian. I worked with the linebackers with him. And then I went to in 2012, that was 2012. And then they actually left. They took another job, and they went to Walsh University in 2013, and they asked me to go be a GA for them. And at that time, I wasn't sure if I was going to be a college coach, was going to be a high school coach. What was my path going to be? I just had met now my wife. We've been dating for a couple of years at that time, and we were still figuring out what we want to do. And so I decided to stay at Marian, and I was hoping that the new coach that came in let me stay on, and he did. His name was Coach Mark Henniger. Learned a ton from him. Really, program organization was a huge thing I learned from him. But I was there as the D-line coach in 2013 and 2014 and 2015. I was there. From there, I went to in 2016. I became the defensive coordinator under him. The guy that I learned from on defense was Scott Power. He's now the defensive coordinator for Western Michigan. Kind of the basis of, what we do was instilled to by him. So I was very, grateful to learn under a guy of just the knowledge that he taught me. It was it was a lot. And I'm still, in debt to what he did for me, teaching me the things he taught me when I was the D-line coach under him. So was there in 2016 as the DC. We did really well on defense the 4 years that I was there, by great players and great coaching staff. I was a small part of it, but was able to, transfer that into going into the University of Kansas, where Coach Les Miles at the time was the head coach. I went there to be an analyst because I wanted to break into coaching at the highest level as possible. So, that's where I actually met Coach Brent Dearman, who's the head coach
Mhm.
there. He was the offensive coordinator at the time. So, was there with Coach Miles in 2020. Learned a lot from him. I thought he was a elite recruiter, and how he, just being able to listen to how he talked to recruits. And then in 2021, I stayed on as an analyst with Coach Leipold, and Coach Lance Leipold. From the bottom up, you're talking about building a program and what he did. I was able to be on the ground floor of that, just kind of being a guy on the wall and seeing everything kind of from my view. I was able to learn so much from him and his staff on how to build a program from the ground up. So I was very grateful to learn under Coach Leipold and his staff. Was there in 21, and then I got the itch. I was an analyst. I was off the field. I was kind of not, I wasn't miserable in the fact of where I was and stuff,
Right.
but I wanted to call defense again. I wanted to get back, quote unquote, on the field, and get the juices flowing. I feel like I had the 2 years where I really needed to learn and grow as a coach, learning from the high level professionals in this profession. So I took a job at Division II school in Tiffin, Ohio,
Mhm.
who the head coach was Chris Reiser, who I learned so much from, and really just the energy and the effort that he put into his program was phenomenal. I mean, that he worked all the time, but he brought his family in there, and it was such a family environment. And the one thing I remember him just teaching me about family and coaching is he has to be a blend. And
Mhm.
so being able to learn under him on how to incorporate those as best as possible, learned so much from him. And I just thought he was a fantastic offensive mind, where he's going to be able. Now he's now the head coach at Gardner Webb down in North Carolina. So I don't see him. He's going to continue to be as good as he wants to be.
Right.
You got a lot of respect for Coach Reiser, and he kind of got me out of that analyst role at Kansas. So very grateful for that. So I was there for a year under Coach Reiser, and then Coach Dearman, who I had tons of respect for when I was at Kansas. I would always knock on his door. Hey, what
Yeah.
do you think about this, coach? Or hey, you're running. You're the OC. We're getting ready to play Kansas State, or we're getting ready to play. Iowa State at the time. Like, what are you going to do to them? How are we going to attack them? I just would always be so interested in picking his brain, because he's a football junkie, and
Yeah.
his dad was a coach, and his dad was his coach in Mobile, Alabama. He's grown up around the game of football, so the knowledge and that he has around the game is phenomenal. Always learning from him. He's an offensive minded coach, but he's also he's got some defense. He's got a defensive heart, what I tell him, because he does want to talk some defense too.
Oh,
So being able to, so when I got the call to join him and help start this program, or help get the program back to where it was, back in the 90s, coming down North Alabama, I mean, I couldn't say no to that, just because, the opportunity that he was giving me to be the defensive coordinator here, and to work under him, and to help build this program back is something I'm just very, very grateful for. So just excited to be here. I think we have a phenomenal staff that he's assembled, and just, it's a beautiful place
mhm.
down here in Florence, Alabama. So we were just excited to be here. So that's kind of how I got to where I was, and here at North Alabama.
So my Alabama stuff doesn't offend you or anything, right? Like University of
No,
Alabama.
I'm good. Now we do have two of our coaches, our director of player development and our linebacker coach, are Auburn Tigers. So
Oh, okay.
it's like big time, all time great Auburn Tigers. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So they might. Well, yeah. And I guess Coach Dearman
It's
coached
a
Auburn. So
Yeah, and coach, yeah, and obviously coached him at Auburn. He was part of the kick six at that time,
yep.
and yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool to hear some of the stories.
Do you need me to move them, dude? I need to.
No, you can keep them on there. You can keep them on there.
No, I'm a Illinois fan first. Like I said, I told you before we
Yep.
recorded. I was a fan of Nick Saban. I did stir the pot and make people mad because I had to have a little fun with it. So I'm like, oh, roll tide
Yeah,
and stuff like that. But I
yeah.
think we're all fans of Nick Saban, so just kind of everybody
Oh,
naturally.
yeah. His approach to the game. I went and worked one camp last year down in Alabama and was able just to
Yeah.
watch him work. And it was, I mean, he was a man on a mission. So
Well, I'm not gonna get political whatsoever, but everybody freaking talk about the debate last night. I'm sitting there going, I'm not watching this. I don't care. And I tweet, I was like, I'm gonna vote for Nick Saban. I'm just gonna write on the ballot like Nick
there
Saban
you go.
for
Yeah.
president, and
Yeah.
that's it.
I think he would do okay. Yeah.
I said that during COVID. I said, hey, can we get some football coaches to run all the states because and people are like, why? And I said, because they would work together to figure this out and like make sure we're all doing the right things and getting things going. And I'm like, we need
Yeah.
some football coaches running everything because,
Yeah.
or just coaches in general. I don't care if they're football, basketball, softball. I was like, we need coaches because we would work to, because I remember during those early days, they were like, the states are going to work together and we're going to figure this out and all that stupid stuff. And then once states started to do their own thing, they're like, nah, you're stupid. You're stupid. I'm like, if we were coaches, we would not be doing that. But
Yeah.
that's whatever. No politics here because I'm not smart enough.
Yeah. No, you're good. I try to stay out of that. But I sometimes I just when that debate was on, we might have had it on, but I had a game up on DV Sport on my phone. I was watching, so
I I knew if I got on X the next morning, I'd get the whole recap. So I didn't even. I looked at my wife. I was like joking with her. I was like, "You want me to put on a debate?" And she looked at me.
yeah,
She goes, "I mean, if you want." I'm like,
yeah,
"Nah, we'll find something else." I'm like, "I'm not putting that up.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
get the recap."
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it don't matter. So had quite the little career there that got you to North Alabama.
yep,
Starting with NAIA
yep.
and coaching NAIA. What did you learn from coaching at NAIA then when you start moving up? Because NAIA is a whole different. It's not a whole different world, but there is
Yeah.
less. I don't know if it's less resources because I have friends that are NAIA, but it is a little different doing that. Like, did you learn anything big from there moving on to like the regular NCAA and Division two and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, I did. When I first started, it was in 2013. And I always say this as a young coach. I think when you go to some of these bigger schools, when you first start out, you're kind of I say guarding a desk, but you're doing all the data input, you're doing reports, and you're just kind of uh, working kind of behind the scenes. Where
Yep.
as a small college coach, when I first started in 2013, well, I had my own position room.
Yep.
I had my own recruiting area. I was the equipment coordinator. I was, I'm making lockers and
Yeah.
luckily we had really great support at Marion, in the direction that university is going, but just wearing a bunch of different hats and being able to, was I ready at the time? Probably not to have you be able to coach guys. I was 24, 25, and I was coaching 21, 22, 20,
Yeah.
those ages. And so be able to separate myself from that age group and be called their coach and learned a ton from just those guys and being able to run a room and being able to, go to a recruiting area and talk to high school coaches. I think just at that level, as a young coach, I just think the experience is second to none when you put
Hmm.
your boots on the ground. And but even when I was became the defensive coordinator, I was the defensive coordinator, but slash I still had the equipment coordinator
Hmm.
title. And so ordering jerseys, helmets,
Yep.
making sure the pants are right, the colors are, just all those little things, that we have to do as football kids because we don't have that equipment coordinator. We
Right.
didn't have a player personnel or so you're wearing you got the player personnel hat because you're going to talk to player you're recruiting. You got the player development where you're bringing the guys in and talking to them stuff outside of football. So I just think you hit so many different aspects as a small college coach where it only helps you grow into when you get to a bigger level where you have the resources or you have the people that that's their profession, that's what they do. It only helps you because one, you've done what they've done, what they're doing now, but you also been able to be in their shoes. And so that's why I don't find it surprising that a lot of small college football coaches, as you say, are successful as they continue to climb the ladder. And
Right.
that's honestly what why Coach Dearman was an NAIA coach.
Yep. Yep.
He's the head coach at Bethel
Hmm.
in 2018. I remember following out, Marion and Bethel were we were top 3 in the country as teams. And I just remember, Bethel, they weren't that good in 2017. They just dumped to 2008.
Yeah.
Who's that head coach? And so I looked Brent Dearman, and then that's kind of how I started to follow him,
Right.
is just the rankings that he had. So I think, being a small college coach teaches you just, especially a young guy, kind of teaches you from the ground up, what to do. And I think it's helped propel me to this level and not be shocked by some things that happen. So very
Right.
grateful for it, honestly. Yeah.
Do you think that when kids become GAs or coach at colleges like that, that's something that they don't know that's about to happen to them? Do they think that they're just going to be doing football stuff? And because I know
Yeah.
for like high school, at least in Illinois, we have a hard time finding coaches, even at just the high school level. Like I know 2 years ago, it took us 5 months or so to like try to fill stipend position. It wasn't volunteer position. It was like, we are
Yeah.
going to pay you to be here.
Yeah.
And it was hard enough. And I know
Yeah.
sometimes I've seen a lot of GA jobs posted left and right. So do you think that's just something
Oh,
they don't know that's about to
I,
happen?
I think that I think they know. I don't think they know the so quote unquote, what is it, the severity
Yeah.
of what they're really getting into. And
Yeah.
I've had a talk with one of my players here. Is, hey coach, I want to get into coaching. What's it like? I said, well, be prepared not to make a lot of money, if any, and be
Yeah.
prepared to be prepared to maybe live in a dorm, or be prepared to be at less with, when all your friends might be making money. You have to have a vision and an approach to your career that stuff doesn't bother you. It's a process. So when I
Right.
first started, my first 2 or 3 years, I lived in a dorm where
Yeah.
I was as a freshman. I was like, oh my gosh, my all my friends are making this, they're making this money, and they're doing good things, and I'm in a dorm where I was when I was a
Yeah.
freshman. And
Yeah.
but I understood the vision. I understood the process of what it takes to be a college coach, and the things that you have to do, the things you have to go through. And I think you appreciate the quote unquote the grind, right? You appreciate what you have to get to that level. And I think it develops an appreciation of the game of football and coaching. So I don't think that, I think that kids know what they're getting into. I just don't know if they truly, once it hits them, are they going to be ready for
Right.
everything that hits them.
Yeah.
But
Like,
I think if their vision and, and what they want to do is at the end game, I think they'll be fine.
right. Or like the job description, what they always put in a
Yeah.
job description, or whatever the manager or boss tells you to. So like
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah.
could be an analyst or a GA, and they're like, "Hey, you're going to work with the linebackers as a GA." But then you start doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, well now you got to go take care of the helmets. Now I need you to go do this. So
Yeah.
it's like extra
Yeah.
stuff that maybe they knew and they got
Yeah.
excited and like I don't have to do that, and now they
Yeah.
have to. You know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I even learned when I was at Kansas, my last year in 2021 with Coach Leipold. I was an analyst, but I also had to, when the recruits there, I was going to drive that bus for the recruits and got to talk.
Yeah.
But it helped me. It helped me. I got to talk to the parents. I got to develop relationships with them. Was it the glorious thing that you were doing, driving recruits around? No, but you got to develop relationships with parents. If you took the bright side, you took the positive
Yeah.
side to it. So just, I think when you get jobs like that, you have to own it. Own the job. Be the best, driver you can. If they ask you to sweep the floor, be the best, floor sweeper possible. Because I think if you do a great job and the little jobs that people ask of you, your jobs are only going to continue to elevate. So.
Well, and then if you go for that job, then when they call the head coach or call the assistant, they're like, "Oh yeah, everything I asked him to do, he did 100%." Like you got to
Exactly.
look towards the future with that.
Yeah, yeah, and coaches appreciate that.
Right.
I know I do with some of our guys that are in that role right now. The amount of stuff they do is incredible. I'm just very grateful for them.
Well, then now what's the new rule that analysts and stuff can be coaches now? Like
Yeah,
that's changed now.
I'm still wrapping my head. I don't know all the I don't know all the rules with that yet, but I wish I would have had that when I was that analyst at Kansas.
I was getting ready to say that. Like, well, maybe some are going to be like, you know what? Maybe I'll just be an analyst and I don't have to coach, and I can kind of not have as much to do, and
Yeah, yeah,
I won't make the same amount of money, but it's livable if you go to the right place. But
yeah.
the changes of college football, I can't keep up with. It's just every day something's happening.
Oh, every day something different. And you're reading on something, and then we bring it up staff meeting, or we'll have, yeah, every day it's evolving. And it's going
Well,
to change today, at some point.
oh yeah, we'll be on Twitter and something's going to pop up and say like, "Here's a new rule change," or "Here's this
Yeah.
change," and you know, because even at your guys' level, is it the talking in the helmet thing now? Is that for
Yeah.
defense too?
Shoot, I hope so. So, if we can, I don't know off the top of my head what that's gonna do if we're gonna be able to do that. But I know they're trying to pass the iPad rule where we can have iPads on the
Yeah,
sideline. I
yeah,
know that I don't know about the helmet communication at our level, but I
yeah,
know the iPad, which would be great because I come off the field and say, "Hey, did you really get that 10-yard out route, or
yeah.
did how did you play this?" I'd be able to have that instant, communication.
Because we can in Illinois, we have that whole sideline, and as soon as they
Okay.
they come off, we
Yeah.
have it's video. We can replay it and show them, and
Yeah.
the best part is it's not necessarily me scheming, it's catching the kid in a lie because, as a coach, your eyes are
Oh
all over
yeah.
the place,
Oh yeah.
and I'm the O-line coach. When they come off, I'll be like, "Why did you not block this guy? He was a whatever technique or whatever. Why did we not double
Yeah.
team here?" And they'll be like, "Oh, no, he did this." And I'll be like, "Really?" And I'll pull it up and be like, "No, he didn't." And
Yeah.
then now
Exactly.
and now kids can't lie. They'll come off, and now they'll tell me they screwed up. And I try to tell
Yeah.
them, "Just tell me you screwed up, and I won't be so mad."
Yeah. Own it. We tell them to own it. Just own it, and we're good. And we're good. But yeah, no, I think that's good. I think it's going to really help offenses. Honestly, is be able to, what techniques are they playing? What are they? What kind of leverage do they have on certain situations? And I think defensively, it'll help us confirm, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
what happened.
yeah.
And be able to adjust off of that.
Our defense coordinator loves it because then he can see like where the breakdown in coverage happened, and then he
Yes.
looks at the
Yep.
offense and say like, did the offense do something to cause that breakdown? And now he can adjust. And like
Yep.
defensive line, they're okay. It's more of maybe you're supposed to be a three technique and you were two, like little things like that. But like it really helps our defense coordinator with the whole like coverage stuff. Like, hey,
Yeah.
this is
Sure.
what they're doing. So instead of we're not rolling here, maybe we need to roll here. Hey, maybe this is what they're doing against quarters. So maybe we do need to just play regular. So it works for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Offensively, we can catch kids in lies and just be like, it's mainly for offense. It's who's loafing
Yeah.
here. Did you see him not run his route
Yeah.
right? Hey, offensive line, you're supposed to block this, or quarterback, your feet suck. Like it's mainly that type of stuff. And it's just,
Yeah.
we know that coming off the field, but now we can show the kids and now they're seeing it's mainly for the kids. Like they could see it and be like, you're right. Like
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
huge purpose for it.
Oh yeah, I think it's gonna be great. I really do. You know,
Yeah, I was just
NFL has
curious.
it. NFL has it. High school
Yeah,
has it, and getting into it's gonna be good for the game.
because NFL is just pictures, right? Or is it video? I
I
can't
think that
remember.
was video, but maybe it's pictures.
'Cause I remember it being pictures. Maybe they adjusted it.
Okay.
Well, you guys follow NFL rules anyway. Everything's
Yeah.
changing to follow NFL
Oh,
rules
yeah, you're right. It's becoming that down here. Yep, 100%.
because I was just curious because I know like offense they can talk into the helmet now at like division at Power Five and stuff like that. But I like the signaling. I like going fast. I like defense coordinator signaling. I like seeing all that. Like the talking stuff gets a little boring from a coach perspective because I like to see how coaches are signaling. How do they do this? And when you're just
Yep.
talking, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm an outsider. Uh,
Yeah.
we have to signal
That's
everything, so I don't know.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
No, I think in the anything where you'd be able to help a coach be able to communicate with a player, whether it be video, pictures, instant
yeah.
communication through the headphone, I think it's only going to help the game. It's going to, I like what the UFL is doing, where you actually get to hear that
Oh
communication.
yeah, yeah.
I think they've done a great job with that. It's kind of enhanced the game from
Using the
from a
Xbox
from a from
control
a
for that.
spectator, yeah, from a spectator standpoint. So, my wife and I love watching UFL. No, I put it on. I'll
Yeah,
put UFL on, and she's like, "Aren't we watching enough football? It's May."
yeah.
So,
Football never stops now. That's why I told my wife. I
yeah,
was like, football never stops.
yeah, yeah,
I don't pay attention to the UFL 100%, but at least it's on and I can glance at it. If it's on my, I have to put my computer now. It's not on the TV. It's on the computer. And she goes, "What are you doing?" I got a football game on. And she
yep,
hates me during college football season because on Saturdays I have our film up, and then on the TV I have a game on. My work computer I have a game on. My phone
yeah,
I have one on. She's like, "What are you doing? Can you pay attention to all this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can."
yeah.
She hates
Yeah, you gotta be able to have all the. Well, now the TV has where you can have 4 screens on
Yeah,
one TV. So I just learned how to do that really
I
in
gotta learn.
December.
That's the next thing I gotta learn is how to do that because me and technology don't get along. Once I figure out one way to do it, that's it. Like, I don't wanna,
Yeah,
'cause if I
yeah,
screw around with it, it's gonna break, it's gonna do something else. Uh,
yeah.
Once I figure out how to put huddle up there, oh, forget about, like, I can, but it's just it sucks. But if I once I figure that out and get that going, she's gonna be like, "What are you doing? Why?" Uh,
Yeah, football, it never stops. I agree.
um, the big, the changes in college football is freaking recruiting. You know, the
Y
transfer portal and name, image, and likeness, and all that stuff. Since you were starting out, how have you adapted recruiting? Because, like, is the transfer portal big at that level? Is it,
Yeah.
yeah, we do it a little bit, but it's not what you see on TV and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think every program is unique. Every program has its needs. I think when you look at the season, every season's going to be different. You're always going to have roster changes, and I think where we do a good job here at North Alabama is we really identify what we need at that time. And I remember when I first got here, my very first night, Coach Dearman says, "Hey, we have about 16 scholarships we have to fill."
Mm.
Um, we'd like to do it before spring, and it was about 2 weeks before spring
Oh,
happened
wow.
because I got there end of December. So that was a roller coaster, but it is at the time where the coaching changes and the guys can go to the portal. So I think you have to embrace the change of what college football is. I think a lot of guys want to fight it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the ones that are doing a good job are the ones who are embracing the culture of college football. So for us, we look at, okay, hey, where do we need help immediately
Mhm.
right now? And that's, if we need immediate help right now, we would look for the transfer portal. But really, Coach Dearman, being from Alabama and being a high school coach, he was a high school coach in Alabama when he first
Right.
started. We want to develop high school kids as much as possible. So,
Right.
we signed. I don't want to go off record here, but I know we signed just amount more than anybody in the state of Alabama of high school
Wow.
kids from the state of Alabama, because of what we're trying to build here. We If we just become a transfer portal destination for players, you really don't get to develop,
Yeah.
and have the program that have the sustainable success that we want. So I think being able to get what you need in the portal, have if you have an issue, if you have a need right away, but being able to develop high school kids, I still think is the core foundation to building a program. And we've been able to do really good job in both spots. And when you do bring a transfer in, do they fit the culture of what you want?
Right.
And I think we've been able to really succeed in that here at North Alabama, being able to identify what we need and the type of person that you're bringing in, because they're going to be in the transport for some type of reason, either playing time or maybe it's not a great fit or whatever. So when they come here, we got to make sure we vet them out. And I think when you have a prior relationship with maybe those players before when they get in the portal, it's a little bit
Yes.
easier too. So it's always changing, but I think where I still think recruiting to its core is in high school,
Mhm.
and that's what we really want to promote here at North Alabama. Coach Dearman being kind of the head of that, he wants to develop high school football players, and especially in the state of Alabama. I mean, the football down here is phenomenal. Now, I'm from Indiana, where we're from basketball. I got a Reggie Miller picture here, so there to remind them that I'm an Indian. But like the football down here is phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's great high school football coaches. Um, when guys come into our program, they understand language, they understand college language because of what those guys are able to learn from under there. So I think, but kind of go back to your question, being able to adapt
Mhm.
to the new college football world, and identify needs in the transfer portal that you need right away, and develop high school kids, I still think is the core.
Yeah, because I asked that coach, every college coach, and I get similar and different answers, which is awesome
Yeah.
because I think at the core, like you said, a lot of coaches say we don't wanna live there because once you start living there, you're looking at,
Yep.
like, it's almost like an NFL type of roster management
Yeah.
of, you
Yeah.
know, Oh, we just and I also think it says something if you don't lose a lot of kids. Like, you're going to, I think, in this day and age, you will lose, but if you maintain, then it kinda it shows that the coaches are doing the right things, and then I also think that's another recruiting tool, like, "Hey, you will be developed here, you will have a good time, you will, um, be a good person," and that type of stuff,
Yeah.
so I think that type of stuff helps you guys in recruiting.
Yeah, and we, having our retention rate from 23 to 24 has been, outstanding compared, how we've compared to other programs. So we believe we're doing the right things here and treating kids the right way, challenging them and
Yep,
putting them in situations where, we want to try to get the better for them. So,
right,
yeah.
because I don't trust media world anymore as much as I used to because what you see
Mhm.
on the ESPN channels and stuff is that I understand the Wild West part of it, but I think that we just see the big blow up of,
Yeah.
like this, and this. Same thing with like salaries. They're like, well, coaches are making a lot of money so they can deal with this extra work they're about to put in with the recruiting. And I'm like, well, hold on. You're just seeing Nick Saban, Dabo Sweeney, and Lincoln Riley. Like, good for them. They're doing great things. But not every coach is making that big money. So when you're adding 3 or 4 hours a day on top of what you guys have to do, I try to defend and say, well, they're going to adapt. They're going to work hard. I'm not saying that, but now they're really earning their salaries
Yeah.
because now it's
Yeah.
extra work
Oh
that
yeah.
is put onto you guys.
Yeah, it is work, but I tell you this, there really, and I know a lot of coaches probably say this, but there really isn't a day where you come in here and you're like, man, it's work.
Oh
Be
yeah,
around guys, be around coaches, and uh, I love I feel like I'm engulfed
yeah,
in my situation here as coaching. So it just kind of comes. It's a way of life essentially, and I think one something that we do, I want to make sure I told you this that um, retention with our players, but we'll have a team dinner with our team every Sunday night in the summer.
mm, yeah,
Want to get them back, after they leave on Saturday, maybe if they go home on a Saturday, but we want to be able to help develop people and sit down with our players, ask them, get them off the field, ask them questions that they're off the field. What's it? How's everything going? How's family? We just don't want to have a transactional process of hey, I'm the coach, you're the player, you run cover two, I'm going to coach you to play. I want to.
right,
What makes that player tick? How can I get the best from him? And I hope he wants the same from me. He wants how can we coexist together?
right,
I think if you can do that, you're gonna have a better relationship among coaches and players.
right, exactly. And I'm gonna get back to that point after my last recruiting thing. From the outside
Yeah.
looking
Yep.
in, and you
Yep.
correct me if I'm wrong, the transfer portal kind of helps FCS coaches at high school. And a coach told me this, and I started to think about it. It's because if you think 10 years ago, maybe a couple of these high school kids could have gone Power Five, Group of Five.
Yep.
But if a lot of those teams are now focused on portal and they got to plug in right away, but they're still keeping some of the younger guys, then
Yep.
FCS schools can come in and say, well, hey, you might play right away here because they're that good. And I don't know if I'm reading it wrong, but I think that helps some a little
Yeah.
bit.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's players that are could be at that level that have what quote unquote fallen through the cracks,
Yeah.
to a lower level. And when I was an NAI coach, where I would try to battle FCS schools or I would try to battle scholarship, or Division two schools to say, hey, all right, if it don't work out there, if if there's certain situations, I want to have a better relationship with you as a recruit, where you'd be able to come and play for us and come play for me. And I think uh, when we go on the road recruiting, just because a kid has a certain offer, it's not that we're not going to talk. We're still going to, we'd still say hello to him, make sure that he knows, hey, North Alabama, um, you know, we want to say hello to you. It's not
Yep.
going to be, well, we can't really, I know you're going to this level. I think the playing field is leveling out where a kid at that might have those offers. Well, one, if he doesn't commit early or they get a transfer, well, that kid is now out of a certain offer where he's the only option were to be maybe a group of five or FCS school. So
Yeah.
I think you see the talent level from, in Division One is obviously there's going to be some gap differences, but it's leveling out. And
Yeah.
I tell you, and I think I watched the teams that we play in our league and guys on our team, we have some phenomenal football players where I'm excited to be able to kind of see what they do. We had 4 guys recently just was put on an NFL draft watch list. So, there's good football players everywhere. That's why I tell those guys too, if you're good enough, the next level
Yeah.
will find you.
Oh yeah.
And so I was, when I was at Marion, we had multiple guys go, to the NFL, and one's currently still playing with the Vikings. And when I was at Tiffin, there's guys that are, in the NFL. One is that guys in the CFL. So I think, football as a whole is as divisions, it's kind of leveling out because of the transfer portal, because guys are able to put guys. And then, so I think it all has its good and negative, but I think, at the end of the day, find people that fit your program is the best thing that anybody can do. So they might be a great player, but do they fit the program and what you're trying to build?
Right. I tell a lot of high school kids that I'm like, you may not be Division One, you may not be FCS, but like if you're good enough, because they think, yes, high school teams that win obviously get recruited because they have talent and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Even if you're on a team that is struggling or going in 500, you will be found. And so college kids, same thing. If you are that good, NFL is going to find you like that. And maybe you slip through the cracks a little bit, but you're still going to find that spot
Correct.
to play. And, it may not be exactly what you want, but then you have the opportunity to grow. And then if you're able to transfer, which I don't want that for college coaches, but it's the reality of the situation is some guys might start out as freshmen and then 2 years later they're all American, then they go on and they go to a Power 5. But then if you guys develop younger guys behind them, then maybe you don't have to do the transfer portal right away which I know is hard in this world, but at your guys' level, I think is a lot easier to do that, which is why I think FCS are getting more eyes from fans because they like to see that pure quote unquote college football than what we see now.
Yeah, and and that's always a question, what would that look like if a player does do that? But I think at the end of the day, if a player trusts you and a player, same thing, if a coach trusts a player, I think it goes both ways, that if something were to happen like that, hopefully the relationship and where you are as a program makes guys want to stay. My cousin was a safety at North Dakota State under Coach Matt Entz and Coach David Braun, and they had a lot of guys that could have left to be at those bigger schools, and just the program that they had at North Dakota State and the tradition and the relationships and everything that built guys really, a lot of guys stayed, is what, my cousin would say. So I think it goes into that, and I think it's whatever's best for you and the player in the program is the best thing to go about it.
And that's why it goes back to what you said, like team dinners. Is there like take them to the pool? Is it getting an Xbox station set up and they play like that type of stuff?
We went bowling on Wednesday as a team. I took safeties. We went to some BW3s the other day too. So I'm not a very good bowler, I'll tell you that. I kind of messed my team up, but I think just getting out of that football facility and being able to do that and finding how they compete in bowling. One of our receivers, he's hilarious. His name's Tanaka Scott, phenomenal football player. He comes in with a big bowling bag. I'm like, he's like a professional bowler. Like, you would have never thought that about Tanaka. And it was just funny to be able to see his personality, come about, at a place like that. So it was cool.
Yeah, because like at the high school level, we don't have as much resources to do some of that, but like in our situation, we don't know if kids are going to eat breakfast or work in our situation. So like we have like as soon as they come in, they do my speed work, and then a coach is downstairs. They have a table. It's just sandwiches, but like make peanut butter and jelly. We have protein bars. We have protein shakes.
That's
and we're making sure they're taken care of. Make sure that there's water and Gatorade, but that costs money. So we tell them we got to fundraise and we got to figure out how to pay for it. But like we make sure that we always tell them the money will go back to you somehow. So like here's gear, here's food, here's
wins.
Wins. The head coach threw us for a loop. Last year he comes out with these coolers and we're like, what are you doing? He goes, you'll see. And at the end of practice, he opens them up. He goes, all right, water balloon fight. They're just full of water balloons. I'm like, what the hell? So the players are doing it. Well, then they were like, wait a minute, we can go after the coaches. So they turn around and instead of going after each other, you got like 70 kids coming after us. And we're like, what the hell? So we're running around. And
That's
my
cool.
senior my senior lineman last year, he was that kid as a sophomore where you didn't know where to play him, right? Like he was a linebacker, but then on offense, where do we play him? So he became a guard and he went through some hell. We had some tough schedules his sophomore year, junior year. So going into his senior, he goes, this is for this team, and then this is for this, and this is
Good.
for this. And like,
Gotta have an enemy. You gotta have enemies.
and so
That's awesome.
I grabbed the golf cart and started driving away, and they're chasing me down, trying to hit me in the golf cart. And like, but then I look, you're pissed because you're getting hit with water balloons. Then you look back the next day and you go, well, that was fun. Like at
Yeah.
least they had some fun there. We didn't kill them or running them or anything. They were having fun.
Yeah.
Or watermelon contest here and hot dog eating contest here. We pull the grill out and you grill for them. So right after practice, when it's lunchtime, hey, we got lunch for you, and stuff like that. And so they enjoy that part of it. And then then you have competitions to earn points and earn stuff. So they're competing, but also having fun. And that's the one thing I learned from as I get older is we don't have to be drill sergeants like when we all
Correct.
played, like it's
Yeah.
involved
Oh
in
yeah. 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 Just be. Yeah. Oh, I agree. That you gotta be one with them at times. I always tell it we're kind of together. Where I just happen to have the whistle. You got the players, and that. Yeah, I agree. That's cool.
Um, so you've obviously coached defense your entire time, played defense.
Mhm.
It seems like you have a good track record of defense. Is there anything unique you do with your defense to get it to be where it is, or is it just you're a good recruiter and you're getting the right guys in,
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I do think we do some unique things. I do think we have a, a way to approach recruits and a way to be able to one develop relationships with our players. But I think at the end of the day is any type of defense, any type of offense. Do the players play hard for one another, and do they
Mhm.
play hard for you as either the defense coordinator or the position coach? And scheme is scheme. You're going to be able to tweak some of the stuff, but I think it ultimately comes down to is are guys willing to go play for one another and play for you as a position coach, defense coordinator, and and it goes into the head coach as well. And I think where we're a 4-2-5 base defense.
Yep.
We get some exotic looks on third down. We'll have different packages of variations where I think what we've done a really good job on, really this whole past, year is, try to make things look the same as possible but have different looks to it post snap to make the quarterback
Yeah.
think snap. We want to bring pressure. We want to play offense on defense as much as possible. We don't want to be the guys that are always defending, and let the offense kind of hit us down the field. But we want to be able to take the fight to them. And I think the mentality of the defense that we have here now is that we want to draw a line and let's go fight. And that's the mentality that that we've really developed, and being able to get this defense back to where this city, this town, and the alumni are proud of. Because back in the 90s, this defense was they were called the Purple Swarm, and we've adapted that now. But 93, 94, 95, I mean, even before that, though, they won multiple national championships. They were the top defense in the country, regardless of level. So I think consistently, constantly pushing our guys to be the best, constantly pushing our guys to play for one another and have each other's backs, and getting them in the right, in the right call or the right, alignments, and, making sure we're, leaving no stone uncovered, and making sure that we have all the answers to the test. But also if something does happen, that our safeties, our backers, or we can solve problems on the field if something were coming about. So I think you're teaching defensive guys, it's kind of, offenses are organic. They can change, they can adapt, but it really is a 3-by-1, 2-by-2.
Yeah.
So you're really trying to teach the defensive players to make sure that they can solve problems if they needed to on the field. And we always say if you're wrong as a defensive player, if everybody's wrong, then you're all right. But if 10 are wrong and one's right, then we're all wrong. So try to get everybody on the same page. And we always emphasize running the football. We emphasize communication, I think, is vital to a defense. Just being able to talk amongst one another, get everybody on the same page, and being great tacklers. You
Right.
do those three things, scheme will take care of
Yeah.
itself.
Yep.
So those are the kind of things that it's really important to me, and important to our staff, both on talking offense and defense is just the core things outside of scheme. And if you get all those three things, that scheme is we sit in the office for a while, we'll be able to scheme some things up. But if you don't do those three things, it really doesn't matter what you do. So we take a lot of pride in doing those characteristics.
Yeah. Two things popped in my head. One, God bless defense coordinator and defensive coach
No,
because when I got into high school coach, I just did offensive line, defensive line, just because I played them. Then I went to a new high school, new head coach, and I told him that's what I wanted to do. And he goes, "Nope, you're doing linebackers, running backs. You're going to help out the varsity defensive coordinator, and then I'm going to make you help out JV defense." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. I want to be offense." He goes, "Nope, you got to learn how defense works. You got to learn that." And during those times,
Yep.
I never lost more sleep than being
Oh
like
yeah.
defense.
Yeah, because you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, but
I
it's
hate.
also a challenge though too. I love the challenge, and I know our coaches. I love the challenge of it.
Yeah.
Being able to can you stop somebody?
Right.
But I do agree, the sleepless nights is funny.
And I think that's where
I
my hair
agree
started
on
to fall out.
that. Yeah, I'm 35 and I got some gray hair already coming in. So
Oh, I'm gonna turn 34 in November, and they're
yeah,
like, "Where's your gray hairs at?" I said, "Why do you think my hair's short? I cut it off so nobody can see it,
yeah,
and
that's
then my
funny.
beard is white if I don't take care of it. Like it's already happening."
I got you.
I
Yeah.
because that's why I tell people like defensive coaching made me lose hair. Offense just makes it gray because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
more
that
frustration.
makes more frustration. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Oh
then
yeah.
basketball don't help either. It makes you lose it a little bit. But
Yeah. Yeah. I
that's what
always say, should I have been the basketball coach or often, all that. But I love the challenge of, being able to stop somebody's plans. I think it's, pretty special.
and then the second thing you said, the first time I ever heard of, and maybe because I was dumb, was defensive guys sometimes try to look at it from an offensive perspective, and that's how they coach it. The first time I heard that was I'm friends with Nick Davis. He's now the head coach at Ottawa, and
Yeah, he was at Rose Holman when I was
yep,
at Marion. He's an Indiana guy. Yep. He's
yep,
an Indiana a little bit.
he's from Charleston High School, which is right down the street from Eastern Illinois. And so
Okay.
when I lived, I took the long college route, that 5-6 year realm, and then I was coach at Charleston High School, so he'd always come visit because he's friends with guys there. So I got to meet him, and then that's when he was at Rose Holman, but he wasn't the DC yet. He was an assistant.
Yep.
And then we became DC at Rose Holman. He told me, like, I have to think about this like an offensive guy. And I said, explain. And he said, well, I want to attack them. And then I want to out formation the offense. He goes, I want to give them, he goes, I'll call the same coverage 5 times in a row, but I will tag it to where we look different and
Yeah.
do this to mess with them. And that's helped him. That's where he came up with his like spread defense type of
Yep.
mentality.
Yep.
And so I find that very unique that a lot of defensive guys are thinking about it that way, and it works and it brings success.
Yeah, yeah. I think anytime where you can try to be on the side where you're attacking that offensive coordinator, the quarterback, essentially.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't. There's a 20-year-old kid, or high school, you're playing a 16-year-old kid, where you don't have to beat the OC, but you give the different look to the kid, to the young man, and
Right.
I think being able to do that, but keep it in the wheelhouse of what you want, it will increase your defensive performance for sure. If you just sit there and you're sitting ducks and you play the same defense, you do the same thing. One, it's boring. The players don't really like it. And also, like, it's boring to you as a coach, but also you create targets on the chest, for defense. And so we want to try to attack,
Right.
and play on the offensive side as much as possible.
Right. And another cool thing he taught me was like when he was coming into coaching, techniques, like you have to do this technique. And then as he goes, he's like, what if the kid can't do that technique you want him to do?
Yep.
Still play the same coverage, still do what you want, but maybe this corner cannot sit square. He has to be churned, but your other corner can be square because he's more athletic. He goes, "So
Yeah.
why the hell am I wasting time making this
Trying
kid do something that he can't do?"
Yeah, yeah. I that goes into really adapting to your personnel and what does a certain kid do good? What does he not do well? And that's why they call you coach, right? Because
Yeah,
you have to be able to maneuver those pieces, and that's the exciting and challenging aspect of it is what does a player do best? And if you don't have certain play, if you're going against what quote unquote maybe a better team, how can you get your team to match that level? What do you have to do either schematically, technique wise? What do you have to make sure you're calling? I think, how do you, best put your team in the best position? So I think that's really cool. What Coach Davis said is just the technique stuff, making sure you're aware of what a kid does well, what a kid doesn't do well, and let's do what he doesn't do. Let's do
yeah,
what he does well a lot, and then let's work on the things he doesn't do well in practice. But let's do what he does. Let's put confidence in that young football player because Coach Dearman says this all the time. There's really not. We're a scholarship football team. There's really not a bad football player on our team. If you're a bad football player on the field, either you don't know what you're doing.
mhm,
Um, so you either get in the playbook, get with the coach, you're either tired, you're not in shape, or really those two things. And that you can control those two things
right,
by getting in the playbook and having physical conditioning. So I
right.
think, being able to handle that is critical.
Well, then I took that to the offensive line because,
Okay. Yep.
like,
I got a lot of respect for offensive line coaches now. Y'all are the heartbeat of
oh,
programs.
well, again, that's why I get gray hairs because I have to watch
Yep.
5 guys, and I'm the run game guy too, so
Mhm.
when he starts putting tight ends and wings in there, because I am
Yes.
involved in those conversations, now I'm watching 7. Now I'm trying to watch
Yep.
6 or just 5, and I quickly
Yeah.
have to coach it as it happens, and I have to see it, and it's quick. "Hey, you took the wrong step." But
Yep. Quick coach on the run. Yep.
yeah, but I used to be the guy that said, like, "We have to be in this type of stance. We have to move exactly like this. We have to move exactly like this." And then the more it evolved, I got older, I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. If I am blessed," like right now I have a 6'5", 290-pound lineman. He cannot be in this square stance. He has to have a foot back just because he's so much taller. And
Right.
just fixing that makes him quicker. And it's the smallest thing. And I'm like, so like the very first day of camp is we're gonna work on our offensive line stances because I get younger kids and maybe they never done it. So my rule is if you're over 6'3", you can stagger your thing. If you're not, you have to be
That's
this.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
That's coaching. Yeah,
um,
I
in,
agree. Yeah, that's
inside
good. That's awesome.
inside
Yeah,
zone. Here's this step. I teach inside zone. I give them 3 or 4 steps, and the kids' minds are blown at first. Like, oh my god, why do I have to take all these steps? I'm like, you don't. I'm giving you options. So if you're quick enough to
true.
get there, if you're quick enough to get there in the short little 6-inch step like we all used to do, cool. If you can't get there, use this technique I just gave you. If you can't do it that way, here's a third option. Here's a fourth option. I don't care how you do it, pick one.
Exactly.
And
Give tools for the toolbox.
right. And
Yeah.
so I used to not do that. And I started to do that after the 2021 fall season after COVID because we had 2 seasons in 1 year. We played in the spring and we played in the fall. And so
Okay. Yeah.
after that moment, I'm like, I should have learned this years ago, but us coaches can be stubborn sometimes and things like that. And I
Yeah.
started to think about it. I'm like, in a game, if they make the tackle or get where they need to be, if they make the block or get where they need to be, we don't complain about how they got there. I'm not looking exactly. I'm just like, oh, they did it. So why don't I coach that way? Like, as long as you get it done, I don't care. But here's ways to help if it's not working. So I'm
Yep.
coaching it like I would a halftime of a game or during the game.
Yeah.
And wide zone, like I want this step, but if they're not fast enough, maybe take a bucket step. Like I'm giving them options how to get there. And then I feel like it's giving them more confidence into what they're doing because we want them to do it fast, right? You want to do everything fast and under
Yep.
control. And so that's how I've started to coach it. And it's not always going to look and like, well, why does this guard look different than the other guard? I'm like, well, maybe this guard or power, for example, I do this too. Maybe he
Yeah.
can't skip pull. Maybe he has to do this because he
Yeah.
can't do
Yeah.
it. So why does this guard look different? This guard doesn't. I'm playing to what they can do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think the players appreciate that because you're not putting them in a box and you allow the players to one be themselves, but also they probably have confidence
Yeah.
in in themselves more because you have confidence in what they do. So I think it all plays a part. And then, we're as coaches, we're not playing on Friday nights or
Yeah,
Saturdays, or
no.
they are. So how can we best make them successful is ultimately, I think, is the challenge as a coach. So I think that's awesome. It's pretty
I
cool. We may use some of that.
yeah, I always do that too, like, if they do something that I haven't taught them or it doesn't work, and I'm like, "Hey, you're the one looking stupid on Friday night, not me.
Yeah.
I'm the coach." I joke around, like, "I'm the coach waving to the moms and stuff in the stands," like, I
Yeah.
joke around. I'm like, "I'm the guy waving." Like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny.
I'm wearing a
Yeah.
nice polo or a long sleeve. You guys are the ones that are look stupid, not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought
Shoot. Yeah. I probably I wear my emotions on my sleeves way too much. So if I feel like they mess up, I'm like, oh man, that's on me. I take that to heart too.
oh, I
So
do too.
you see it, but yeah, I know you do too. It's
Well,
yeah,
I say that to them, but realistically, I'm the guy running down the sideline, hooping and hollering, and like,
yeah. Oh yeah, you're the biggest critic and you're the biggest cheerleader. I bet. Yeah.
oh
So
yeah, it's on film. Like if we make a big run, it's real
yep.
funny on huddle. You'll see like our running back here, and then all of a sudden from the screen, you see me trying to catch up, and then
Yeah.
I use that as a joke. I'm like, I thought you were fast. You let my fat ass try to almost catch you.
Yeah.
And that's why my meeting rooms are fun, and that's why some running backs love to come in because I do that type of stuff. I make jokes and I make it fun in the meeting room. Now there's a serious time, and the
Yeah.
best part is I'll never forget our running back last year. We ran pistol, so pistol footwork's a little different than sidecar.
Okay.
He
Right.
always false stepped. He always did this, and I remember as soon as the play started, your steps suck, and everybody started laughing. Next play, man, your steps suck, and then I look at the O line or something, and then the running back goes, I get it. I'll fix it. And I go, man, I hope so. Or like,
Yeah. Right.
I
Yeah.
make bad
Mess
jokes. And,
getting with them, but you're getting the point across in a different way. Yeah.
or,
I think it's cool. And I think what you said when you talk about fun and enjoying the atmosphere. My uncle used to tell me this all the time. And when I first started, he said, "You work too hard. One as players and coaches, you work too hard not to have fun.
yeah. Yeah.
If you're miserable in this game, man, this really ain't the place for you because you
Yeah.
spend way too much time together."
Or like,
Um,
I'll trick especially linemen. I've adapted. We don't hit as much because I want them to be healthy. I've adapted in this world of like, I take the feed the cats approach and sprint based football approach with my linemen. And we
okay.
stayed healthy because when I first got to Addison, for 3 years, I never had the same starting O line group for more than 2 games in a row. Somebody got hurt. Somebody did this. This past year was the first time where like the only time a kid got hurt was because he got rolled up on. Like it was just, one of those freak things. But nobody was like hurt. So I've taken that approach. So I'll have fun with it. I go, okay, guys, get in a line. We're gonna do one-on-one drills. And they're like, oh, so the one-on-one, we're gonna see who's the best of the best. Then all
Yeah.
of a sudden I pull a football and I was like, all right, what route you want to run? We're gonna do one-on-ones and have fun. Like, can you stop them? Like, we'll have fun. And,
Yeah.
and I'll show the practice, like, hey, we're gonna do one-on-ones, but I don't say what type of one-on-ones. And so I
Yeah.
throw them a curveball, and then I go,
Yeah.
okay, who wants to be quarterback? Oh, I'll play quarterback. And then sometimes the other
Yeah.
coaches are like, you're supposed to be working on inside zone. I'm like, nah, we did that all. We have fun for about 5 minutes here. I'm okay with it.
I think that that's pretty cool. The one on ones, like even when I was at Kansas, the linebacker coach at the time, Coach Chris Simpson, his linebackers, I don't know if it was Thursdays or Fridays, they would just have a one on one session,
Yeah,
like red zone, and the linebackers, one linebacker would be the receiver, the other guy would have to guard him, but just ease the tension
yeah,
throughout the season. I think is pretty cool.
and
I
that's what I'll
always
do
think
it
it's
too.
cool to do. Yeah,
If I
yeah,
could
for sure.
tell, if I could tell the week's been bad or that day's been bad, sometimes I have it pre-planned. Sometimes I'm like, let's just do this, and
Yeah,
I might pay for it later in like inside run or team time, but
yeah,
like in that moment, I can fix it when it comes to that because you're filming it. You can worry about it later, but like in that moment, like, hey, well, let's do this, or I'll walk up behind a kid and give him a joke, or like tag him in the back of the knee, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, and they're like,
yeah.
or like the best part, the damn cicadas. So at the beginning, you have all the
Oh,
cicadas everywhere. Our
yeah.
kids were our kids are scared of them. They would be flying at them. They're freaking out. I'm a country boy, so I didn't care. They'd land on me, and I'd be like, "What's up?" Or I'd pick it up. Man, I'd pick it up and try to put it on one of them, and they're like, "You're such a damn country boy. What are you doing?" Because we're in the suburbs now, and I'm like, I'm having fun with them. They're like, "What are you?" The other
Yeah.
coach was like, "Steve, be serious for a second." I'm like, "Come on, like I'm
Yeah.
having fun here."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
then
I'm sure the players love playing for you.
I hope so. Yeah, I tell them I hope so because I almost got divorced 3 times and I've only been married less than a year because I'm doing this, and this.
Yeah. That's yeah, no, I'm sure they do. If you're invested in them, they'll fight for you. So,
Or sometimes they wanna fight me. Some of them are like, "Hey, after high school, we're gonna wrestle and do this." I'm like, "All right, bring it on. I know I'm getting old, but bring it on. Let's go."
yeah, that's cool. That's
Or
pretty
or
cool.
or like I'll show them things in slow motion so they can see whatever for I want in slow motion, and then they're like, "Well,
Yeah.
what about full speed?" They try to challenge
Yeah.
me, see if I still got it. So I'll do it full speed, and they're like, "Coach, you look a little slow this year." And I'm like, "Shut up." Like, they they can joke with me back and forth, and they know
Yeah.
when I'm serious, and then they know when
Yeah.
it's time, and
Yeah.
so but that comes with age. Like, when I was 22, 23, that was not happening. Like, it was drill sergeant, and then the older I get, I'm like, I don't need to have a heart attack. Like, I'll get after it. Like, obviously, all coaches we get after it, but we don't need to have heart attacks. Like, we don't need to do this. Like, we'll get it done and have
Yeah.
fun and have a
Yep.
serious time. And or I
Yeah.
have the worst
Create
jokes.
the balance.
I have
Yep.
the worst jokes. I'm like, my dead grandma moves faster than you. Like, what are you doing? Or something. Just stupid
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
or like, hey, remember Pizza Hut buffet? Why don't you move as quick as you would to get to that thing? Like, let's go. Or something stupid.
Yeah.
And or I blame the head coach for something. I'm like, well, I would do this, but the head coach over there won't let me. And then he looks over and he's like, shut up. Like, I'm the quirkiest guy out there, and I think that's just an old wine thing. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
the quirkiest. Or I've coached every position of football, so sometimes I tell corner to do this, or I might pop over and tell a safety to do this, and they're like, "Wait, how do you know that?" And I'm like, "I'm a coach. Like, we adapt and learn everything."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
well,
It's pretty cool.
well, coach, I've taken all your time. I appreciate you.
No, you good. I appreciate you having me on. It's great getting to know you. Like I told you, Cody, I'm sure you guys love playing for you. Just some of the stories that you've said, and I really appreciate you having me on, and University of North Alabama. So
Oh, for sure. If I ever have a kid to go down there,
yeah, it's a
I'll get him down
beautiful
there.
town. Florence, go down 60, go 65. If go right through Huntsville and out, it's right sits right along Tennessee River, and it's a beautiful spot.
Oh, sorry. Last question. You talked about the '90s, what the defense was called. What are you
Yeah,
going to call your defense? Are you going to call it the same thing, or
we adapted. We're going with Purple Swarm, so we've adapted in our defensive meeting room. There's a huge Purple Swarm. We have stars on it. Actually, above my desk is the old 90, and that was the 93 team. The 93 defense is up there. Building that, having the tradition already built, but being able to one we want to live up to, but we want to challenge it. One day can we be better? That's the thing that we're continually working on every single day, is to achieve that. So our guys embrace it, and they have their own saying. We have our own sayings, within the defense of
yeah?
each group, and then the defense. But overall, we want the town of Florence and the people around the area, and hey, the Purple Swarm, it's back and it's coming.
Love
So
it, love it. Sorry, that was a question I had like 10 minutes ago and I
no,
forgot.
you good. You're fine.
I wanted to
Yeah.
end it with it, what the defense was called. I love when a defense has a name for themselves. Like when we were in high school, we adapted the Nebraska thing. So defense players had the black jerseys on, and like that's
Yeah.
what it was, and skull and crossbone on it. And I'm
Yes.
an
Yeah.
offensive,
Yeah.
I'm
An
a,
identity.
yeah, I'm an offensive guy, but I love the that type of thing for defense, like the name of it and what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Have an idea. You guys have something to play for. You
Well,
know.
coach, you were awesome. Thanks again.
I appreciate you, Coach. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's good to see some Bears